That's why we're back, because after those civilizations were destroyed, there was so much karma and so much trauma to account for that we all got together and we said, what are we going to do to make up for this? So most of us are back now, and most of us have had lifetimes back then. So we're here to bring this full circle, because this is the time that they've been talking about for ages, foretold in all those stories, because this is when we reunite again and we bring that compassion back, that balance, because there's this light hitting the planet right now, this beautiful, divine, feminine light that's showing all the shadow so that we can rebalance it.
Yeah. This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman, Cosme, from May 2022. Enjoy. You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms.
I regressed her back to this lifetime she had in the 1970s, where she was uncovering this information before with another hypnotist, which is really fascinating, and pulling all this information. She eventually was called crazy and lobotomized. But what was really interesting was her hypnosis sessions with this other hypnotist, where during these sessions, she saw things like the Sphinx being built. And she saw that these extraterrestrials that were building the Sphinx didn't have bodies when they came to Earth to build the Sphinx, because you only need bodies as an extraterrestrial if you're interacting with humans. And they weren't. And in that way, they didn't have to get stuck on the planet, and they could come and go as they wanted. So they built this thing.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want.
Welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. As always, it's a blessing to be with you all. And please remember, if you're liking the show, share them with your friends, press that like button, send me a comment. If you're listening on audio, send me an email. If you have any questions or want to share some of your stories with me. And yeah, if you're liking the shows, you're always welcome to give me a donation. I've never asked for donations. I thought I would today. But I have the most delicious person to introduce you to today, and we're going to go down that rabbit hole into the past and into the future. Sarah Breskman, Cosme, welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope I said your name, Breskman, Cosme.
Yeah, you did a great job. Very impressive.
Where does that name come from, Breskman, Cosme?
I'm Russian and Scottish. Cosme comes from, and then on top of that, Spanish. My husband's Spanish. So Cosme is Spanish.
And is Breskman your maiden name?
That's correct.
And Russian. Were you born in the States?
I was born in the States, but my family comes from Russia and Scotland. But I'm basically just a big mutt mixture all over.
Oh, wonderful. Well, let me read your bio and tell people that are listening a little bit about you. So Sarah Breskman Cosme has always been passionate about helping others develop tools which allows them to overcome difficulties, because she experienced many difficulties herself as a child and young adult, which we'll go into a bit later. In this pursuit, Sarah earned her bachelor's in psychology at Northern University in Boston, and after graduating worked as a counsellor in a halfway house for people labelled mentally ill, and saw firsthand how the conventional treatments with medication and talk therapy was not that effective. As a result, Sarah pursued hypnotherapy, a therapy which allows someone to connect to their subconscious mind, enabling change and transformation to occur in their limiting belief programs, which can evoke disempowering and unwanted behaviours. Today, Sarah is a Master Hypnotist, a Level 3 practitioner of the Dolores Cannon QHHT, which stands for Quantum Healing Technique, and a student of Dr. Brian Weiss, who wrote the book Many Masters. What was his book called?
Many Lives, Many Masters.
Many Lives, Many Masters, who, you know, he's quite famous because he was on Oprah and all that sort of thing. She's passionate about revealing hidden knowledge vital to the enlightenment of humanity. Sarah now assists in teaching with Dolores Cannon's daughter, Julia, all over the world, and she has assisted in Egypt, Mount Shasta, Peru, as well as in Miami. She's a best-selling author of A Hypnotist's Journey to Atlantis and A Hypnotist's Journey to the Secrets of the Sphinx. Hence, for people watching on video, the Sphinx in my background. So we're going to chat about that today. We're going to explore a little bit of Sarah's story, but I want to go into Atlantis, Lumeira, our origins, what we're all doing here, who we really are, and future potentials. Because you've just, from your clients, you've just gained so much information, like your pursuit of information paid off, right?
Definitely. It's amazing the work that I do. I find out so much, and it's such amazing information that could help so many people. So that's why I'm really passionate about sharing it, because people don't have access to this information.
So when you receive the information from your clients, do you ask them to sign a release so that you can share their information, obviously without their name?
That's a really good question. I actually don't use paying clients. I use people that we have an agreement. So we do a trade because this is what I do for fun, actually, writing these books and uncovering this information. I have clients that I've put under hypnosis many, many times. Mm-hmm. So they can go deeper each time. It's almost like working a muscle. And I can find out anything with these clients. And they can also ask questions and heal anything that they need to heal on their physical body.
Okay, so the people that you get the information for the books are specifically picked for that. I mean, right. But wouldn't you also be receiving stuff from your clients that you're like, ooh, yeah?
No, I was with the Atlantis book. That's when it first started, because I didn't know that I was supposed to write a book.
Oh, okay.
And as I was getting information from this one client that I was working with a lot, this weird phenomenon started happening in my office, where people that have never met one another or, knew about this information, because how would they know? They didn't know what I was trying to find, started recounting these same past lifetimes. And I thought it was a coincidence. So I would ask my friends, do you guys also get a lot of clients that regress back to Atlantis and Lumeira, right before their downfalls? And everybody said, no, I'm not getting that. I thought, this is really strange, until it wasn't strange. It was obvious that I had to report on it.
I just love this, because I was always fascinated with the way that when Dolores, shared her clients' wisdom, how it seemed completely orchestrated, that she would speak to Nostradamus, but not through one client, through a dozen clients. And like Nostradamus would just use that portal of the client to come through again and give more information. I just thought, wow, this is so cool. Spirit's so clever.
It's so interesting, because when you take a person to that level, you take them through regression hypnosis, and then you speak with their all-knowing higher consciousness. Mm-hmm. That is connected to everyone's higher consciousness. So essentially, you're tapping into universal consciousness, and you can find out anything. And so you don't need the same client. I don't use the same client for my information. I mean, I use one and then use another one and use another one, because I want to make sure the information is valid. Yeah. And they don't know one another, and they don't know what I've gotten from the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that you have a specific puzzle piece in the information you're bringing through? I mean, Dolores seemed to bring through so much information, but she was definitely speaking to a puzzle piece, like a niche. What do you think yours is?
My niche?
The guides are bringing through your clients.
Oh gosh, there's so many different guides, but what I've learned is that I am not in charge of it whatsoever. The guides have an agenda.
Yeah.
They figure out basically what they want to get across to humans now.
Right.
Is
Okay.
what it seems like. And that's the information that comes to. I don't have to do anything. I do have to like kind of feel where it gets put together as far as where it goes in what book, because there's so much information, but it's such a fun, wild ride. Like I feel like an investigator. It's so exciting. Even today I was working with one of my subjects, and just the stuff that comes out is so mind-blowing. It's just unbelievable. So it's really fun, honestly.
I know we're going to explore some of that mind-blowing stuff, but I'd like to sort of hear a little bit about your journey. What was happening for you to make you pursue healing?
Well, you probably know these people. I was such a mess growing up. I always had so many problems. I was one of those people. I was overweight. I had all kinds of fears, phobias. I was always nervous, and I couldn't really sleep at night. I had so many problems sleeping. And I even had OCD where I would open and close drawers and flick on and off light switches. But I was a kid and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't realize that I was just highly, highly sensitive. I would also see people that happened to have already died, but they didn't look like people that were dead. They looked like people to me. And
Wow.
I had so many problems. And none of my problems seemed to get better when my parents put me in therapy. In fact, sometimes they seem to get worse because I also seem to have had this amazing talent where I could manifest anybody else's problem. So if somebody else had a problem and I thought about it enough, I could also get that problem. It was just a big total mess. And in therapy, it was really nice to talk to somebody. But like I said, I didn't feel like it got any better. Sometimes things would get worse, but I always had this feeling ever since I was little that I wanted to help other people. It was just one of the things that I knew about myself. When someone asks you, tell me about yourself, I would say, I want to help people. That was something just so ingrained in me. And so I thought I was going to become a psychologist. That was my goal. So I went to Northeastern University and I studied psychology with my goal being I will become a psychologist because I had already experienced therapy and I definitely knew a lot about problems. I was very good experiencer with that. And after I graduated college, before going to graduate school, I had an internship where my job was to basically give these people medications and counsel them with all the different techniques that I had learned and all the medications that I had to learn about. And I thought when I was in college that this was the leading edge of thought, that this worked. I was told it worked. And I was told all these medications work for these people. So I was super excited to help people. I thought I was going to help people. Within about a week of being there, I felt as if every single thing I learned in college was a complete lie. Everything. I couldn't believe that this is all we had to help these people. I mean, these were people and they were considered, schizophrenic if they talked to angels or extraterrestrials. They were considered people that needed to be heavily medicated if they had any kind of like psychic experience. And I mean, granted, yes, there were some people that definitely had some issues, but nobody got better. I never saw one person, not one success story, not one, come in there, do what we were told helps people and then leave. I never saw that. In fact, it was the opposite. From my perspective, what I saw was that the pharmaceutical companies were testing these people. So they would use them as lab rats. And they would have these wristbands and they would have to go for weekly tests to make sure they didn't die on some of these experimental medications that were supposed to quote unquote help them. So it didn't take me long to think, I think there's got to be something else out there because I wanted to do something that helped people. My goal, of course I wanted to make money, but that wasn't my real goal. And I thought, I'm not going to continue and go to graduate school. So I quit that. And eventually I got into hypnosis. And I did past life regression, because these were the things that you did back then. It was past life regression, lose weight, and quit smoking. And it was amazing because right away I saw that past life regression worked. I always wanted to do something that worked, that helped people. And I had a couple clients come in for a past life regression, which I was kind of skeptical, to be honest with you. They would come in and they would all of a sudden seem to remember a past life. And I wasn't even sure they really were, but they would heal themselves. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. There's something about this. And so I studied with Dr. Brian Weiss in New York. And then I started doing his method for quite a while. I stopped doing the lose weight and quit smoking. And I just did that for a while. And I really enjoyed it, but I had this feeling like there was just something in my life that was missing. It was just like this hole in my life that I just couldn't figure out. So one of my friends knew the psychic, and I talked to the psychic, and she said, this is the easiest reading I've ever done. She said, most people have different future potentials, and there's a lot of different potentials. But she said, with you, Sarah, this is the easiest reading. You have one clear path, and I can see it very clearly. She said, the reason you think you're missing something is because you're supposed to do Dolores Cannon's method. You're going to get really good at that. You're going to work your way up, and you're going to eventually teach it. And then you're going to be writing a ton of books, and you're going to be speaking about it all over the world. And I thought to myself, she got me confused with the other person. Like, she probably thinks I'm her other client, or the other client that's coming after me, because I don't know who Dolores Cannon is. I mean, that's a great story, but I don't write anything. So I just didn't think anything of it. Of course, I thanked her and everything. I thought, that's so interesting. That was a really nice reading. I didn't think anything of it. But then I looked into Dolores Cannon to see who this person was, because like I said, I didn't have that type of background. I wasn't a very spiritual, person, because I didn't know much about spirituality. I just didn't have that exposure. And when I found out about Dolores, when I looked into her and started looking into what she taught, something really clicked within me. I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. And just like the psychic said, her name is Emma McIntosh, because people ask me, Emma McIntosh. Just like she said, I worked my way up from a level 1 to the top level. And then I started teaching with her daughter all around the world. And then I've been writing books ever since. And I'm actually speaking about them all over the place. So it's been a wild ride, and I still really can't honestly believe it. I don't really know, how this all happened, but I guess I'm just following my path.
You're following the path. I know. I don't really know how it all happened. I know.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms. This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman, Cosme, from May 2022. Enjoy.
Well, it's fantastic. Your story sounds so similar to mine. It's so funny. I always hear a bit of my own story and most people's stories, but I like you. I wanted to help people, and didn't know how that looked until I did a naturopathy course, 5 years full-time study, and I left there thinking, I don't think I've actually learned anything that's going to help the world. I mean, not to negate naturopathy. I felt that it should be that level of understanding of our health should be taught in school. Like, that's what we should learn in school. We should learn about our diet. We should learn about our body. We should learn those fundamental things. But I didn't feel like it was going to change the world. Yeah, so I kept pursuing. I kept asking, what will change the world? What will change the world? Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, similar story. And
so interesting.
Yeah, as far as the QHHT, Mary Rodwell and I have talked about this because you know who Mary Rodwell is, don't you? She's a famous hypnotist here in Australia.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, her clients are predominantly, going back to their galactic lineage and talking about their aspects of selves that are, doing wild things in the cosmos and why they're here on Earth at this time for the shift and what they're here to do. And she's written books about it, one being The New Human. But we've talked about, because she's psychic, she doesn't talk about being psychic. She travels with the client. Like when she puts them under, she's completely aware of what they're seeing. And that's not something specifically taught in QHHT, but I'm sure you do that too, right?
A little bit. I mean, I do try to keep my vibration high by going outside and doing different, techniques so that I can be open. But I don't always see what the client is seeing. I'm not like a very psychic person by any means whatsoever.
Yeah, I remember Dolores always saying, I'm not psychic. Like she always used to say that, like, I've got to stay in my logical mind and not be psychic. But I think that as we're shifting to a new era, that's changing, especially for the practitioner. I think that the practitioner's psychic abilities are as important as the person accessing their own information, because then you can help guide them, because you become like their spirit guide embodied in a way, really, when they get stuck, when they hit things that hit their emotional center and maybe they're stuck or whatever. So,
no, I love that. I feel like we're all tapping into our abilities that we have forgotten about. Everybody is.
Yeah.
And it's more, you can access it more now than before.
Yeah. I really believe there will be a day where we can all access that information without going to a hypnotist,
Oh, I'm sure. And that day is coming. I mean, even just the fact that when I started in 2009, my clients would be mostly unconscious. They would be unconscious to the point where they would have to be woken up after the session for the majority of people going under to do a past life regression. But recently, I think it started around 2012, to be honest. It seems like people are really merging with their higher self. So you can be in deeper states of hypnosis, but you can also feel very much wide awake and aware. Yeah. So you're almost merging the two parts of your mind now. And it's really exciting because you can go further into this information than you could before.
Yeah. How cool is that? Let's talk about the first book, A Hypnotist's Journey to Atlantis. What was being revealed that turned into a book?
Oh my gosh, it was so fascinating and such a fun journey and experience for me. I needed a client. This is how set up it was. It was so funny. I needed a client that I could regress and videotape for my level 3 class, the QHHT class, that was all of a sudden in Orlando. And so I just decided to ask Jen, who was my friend at the time. And I had known Jen for so many years, probably 10 years at that point, because our kids were the same age and we would sit after school together and watch our kids play on the playground. She was a teacher at the kids' school. And so I knew her. I also knew she was not into spirituality at all, because I was learning many things and I would sort of bring up some things and she was not into it whatsoever. Those friends. So I just didn't talk about it whatsoever, but I was put on the spot and needed a subject. So for some reason, my first thought was to ask her. I still don't know why. If, it's like, why not ask somebody that I knew was into this stuff? But when I told her what I did, and I told her what I wanted to do with her and just use her video as a submission I would take to the class, she looked at me and said, I didn't know you did this because I've been looking for something like this. My jaw dropped to the floor. I knew she knew I was a hypnotist and into spiritual things that were weird to her, but she was looking for something like this because she had been diagnosed with this brain condition called pseudotumor cerebri. And basically, it was causing swelling in her brain, and there was a huge risk of a stroke, and it was really painful for her. She had these severe headaches, and she was working really closely with this team of specialists at the University of Miami, and they said that there was absolutely no cure, but she could stay on these heavy-duty medications. So when I told her that she could heal herself in this session, and she might find out about past lives, she was on board. She didn't care about the past lives. She was very on board. She was looking for some alternative to help her heal. So our first session was mind-blowing to the both of us. Again, this is somebody who doesn't have a background in spirituality, and she did not know much about Atlantis. She didn't know anything about Lumeira. So her first regression, she goes back to this past life as a queen in Lumeira, where it was a matriarchal society. It was a beautiful, compassionate society. She knew nothing about this previously. All different types of symbols, all different types of things that you see in Egypt. So many different things that, you know, you just hear stories about. She recounted it in such great detail. And it was a beautiful place. She could even smell the flowers. She could hear the birds. She loved that place so much. She remembered like her balcony where she would see the ocean and just feel like just the compassion of the people and the love. She absolutely loved that place so much. And she saw that there were these visitors that started showing up, and they wanted something from their society, but for some reason they couldn't give them what they wanted. And so they took her as a prisoner and were able to, within rifts in the ocean, set off these atomic-like devices that created these massive tidal waves that absolutely sunk the entire continent. Which they took her as a prisoner, and she lived for 60 years in Atlantis. And so through that experience, we were able to pull all her memories of Atlantis and Lumeira. And this is what was so fascinating to the both of us. When I asked to speak with our higher consciousness and asked what was the purpose of her, pseudotumor cerebri, they said the purpose was to bring her to me, because she needed to uncover and share this information with the world. So
Absolutely.
The next day, she felt so much better. She stopped taking her medication. She went back to her team of specialists, and they said, "This is impossible. We don't see anything. How did you heal yourself?" And she said, "Well, I tried this new hypnotherapy technique." And they said, "Well, we'll just call it a medical miracle and leave it at that." So then we started working together, and we started uncovering this information. And because they said it was so important for the world to know now, I asked the higher consciousness, just start from the beginning. Start from the beginning of where you want us to, what do you want us to share with the world? So I thought she would go back to a child in Lumeira. That was just what I assumed. But no, she didn't go back to her child in Lumeira. She went back to the beginning, when she was an extraterrestrial crash landing on Earth for the very first time, and uncovering all this information about the fact that that planet was running out of resources. They saw Earth as a great place to colonize and a great place to, get these resources, that everything was dwindling, and they really needed to come, start seeding the population on Earth and move their society basically here through the use of, the hybrids. Anyway, we were a little surprised because Jen did not believe in aliens. And I thought, what is she going to think after the session? She had a much different idea about them, but I was a little worried when they started showing her that, because I did kind of want to get her background beforehand. And she said, no, she didn't believe in aliens. So anyway, that changed.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms. This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman, Cosme, from May 2022.
So we uncovered all this information about extraterrestrials and what they're doing on Earth. And then we started going into her lifetime in Lumeira. And really, that's when that really strange thing started happening, that my office is flooded with people that had the same type of experience, or they would recount memories of being at Atlantis during the final days, or they would recount crash landing their ship, their extraterrestrial ship. So I started just pulling together all this information. And then if I was going to use one of those, I would ask them, can I use your session? I've changed everybody's names too. And then Jen wrote her own book called Child of the Universe, which is her firsthand perspective of her experience. And then I put my information into Hypnotist Journey to Atlantis.
Whoa. Wow. Okay. I've got so many questions. So what I'm gleaning from what you're saying is that Atlantis and Lumeira coexisted simultaneously in the same time frame on Earth. So Earth at some stage in our evolutionary journey was an enlightened planet where we didn't have the consciousness, the third dimensional consciousness we have today. But there was some outside force. Were they extraterrestrials? Like who attacked?
They were Atlanteans. So the Atlanteans had more technology, because this is what I got through these sessions. And I don't really know what other people get, because I don't watch anybody else's YouTube, or I've actually never read Edgar Casey's material, which I should someday, because
all right. Okay.
But I only get my information from my own session. So what I received was that there were many extraterrestrial crashes, and that was intentional, because it was a one-way mission to get them to set up these colonies. Although the extraterrestrials at the time were not aware that they would crash, but they were able to crash land. So many were able to survive. So there were many crash landings. And in the case of the founder of Atlantis, he was able to salvage some of the technology from his ship, not enough to call his planet of origin, and not enough to set anything up where he was, but he was able to use that technology and go through what's called a chasm or a vortex, which are the stone circles that you see at Stonehenge. And that's what they used to be used for, was the ancient transport devices, and it would transport you somewhere on the earth. So the founder of Atlantis was able to get this, whatever he had crystals that he found from the ship. He was able to use that. Go ahead.
Who was the founder of Atlantis? Is he an extraterrestrial that landed on Earth?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
He was an extraterrestrial that landed on Earth. That's why Atlantis was so advanced. And it was built in the same model that they had on their own home planet.
Okay.
So there was a reason for Atlantis looking the way it did. And the reason for all that extraterrestrial technology, it was because the founder was extraterrestrial. Right. He just couldn't get back home. He couldn't get back to his home planet, and he couldn't call them, basically. So he set up, so after he went through the vortex, he went through the vortex, and he ended up where Atlantis was now, which was in the Atlantic Ocean, basically. It's not there now, but so he luckily found some technology left over from an earlier group of extraterrestrials, and he was able to use that to start building the city and create human hybrid slaves. And then he built this whole big Atlantis. That was how Atlantis started. Now, Lumeira started in a much different way. There was an extraterrestrial that crash landed and started breeding with the humans, since there was nothing else they could do to kind of create these human hybrids. They started breeding with the humans, and it didn't seem like any survived at first, except one did. And that one went on to share these genes with others and others, but they didn't have the same technology that Atlantis did. So the Lemurians became these beautiful people who were very advanced spiritually. And they were a matriarchal society, because instinctually knowledge was passed from the mother to daughter. So a mother didn't have to teach her daughter information about plants or herbs or things like that. It would just be an instinct that was passed through the subconscious. And the ruling party were women. The leaders were the natural rulers, because they had this stored knowledge, and that was considered the most valuable. And it was a very fair society.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms. This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman, Cosme, from May 2022. Enjoy.
As I listen to you speak about this society, even though it's in our past, it takes me into the future of where we can go. It's kind of like, full circle, isn't it? Not necessarily a matriarchal society, but more balanced, like not patriarchal, not matriarchal, like a balanced society, but just moving into that peace and love and intuitive way of living that you.
That's why we're back, because after those civilizations were destroyed, there was so much karma and so much trauma to account for that we all got together and we said, what are we going to do to make up for this? So most of us are back now, and most of us have had lifetimes back then. So we're here to bring this full circle, because this is the time that they've been talking about for ages, foretold in all those stories, because this is when we reunite again and we bring that compassion back, that balance, because there's this light hitting the planet right now, this beautiful, divine, feminine light that's showing all the shadow so that we can rebalance it.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you, the guides are saying, not most of us, all of you, you're all back. You're all back. Well, you're all back. Yeah.
Right. You can tell if you are, I feel like most people can tell if they are many people have multiple lives in Lumeira and Atlantis, but people that feel more passionately about one or the other, the first iPhone buyer, and who loves technology, who's just so excited by new technology.
Right.
And then you have the person that loves herbs and playing music and eating a plant-based diet. They resonate sort of with different parts of that history, I think.
Yeah.
Some both. Definitely.
What I'm getting is I'm listening to you. They're just downloading some information. They're saying that, there are many people on the planet that have had, multiple lives in many different timelines on Earth. There are many starseeds on the planet that when they came into this time, now they wanted to understand what is happening. So they incarnated or looked at that history and sort of understood the timelines. It's like, why is this happening now? Or because that happened and that happened and that happened. Oh, okay, I get it. And they're saying that anyone who's talking about Lumeira and Atlantis has been there. And they're also saying that many people that have never even heard of Lumeira and Atlantis have also been there. They're also incarnated from that era, and they're not even aware it existed. So it seems like it was a big, as I'm asking, it seems like it was a big civilization, but they're saying, no, it wasn't as big as what's happening on the world today. But then you have to understand the multidimensional nature of the soul, that there can be many people on the planet now that was one person in a past lifetime.
That's true. It's so interesting how that works. Yeah. Like if I ask about like a famous person, like King Tut or something, he's in multiple people living lives now on this timeline, and of course other timelines. It's so fascinating.
Exactly. And I have met several people that has been me in a past lifetime during the time of Jesus. And,
interesting.
And so, I've been identified as being this person, which I don't relate to at all. But I know that I've been male more than female. But and then I've spoken to other people that said that they were that same person, and I'm like, oh, cool. It's like, you are me, I'm you, you are me. It's like really cool.
Well, and there's so many soul groups back again now to complete this. There's so many people that are here just for this. Right. And like you said, so many star seeds. Yeah. And it's hard for some of them because they're just not used to the earth, and violence upsets them so much, and they're so sensitive. But they can use that sensitivity as a way of reading, and like reading people, and almost like a superpower.
It's a superpower. It's definitely a superpower. Okay, so let's get back to the story. So Lumeria was a beautiful matriarchal peaceful society, and then people that were in Atlantis decided to infiltrate, and they wanted to take some of their technology.
Well,
what did they want from them? They wanted stuff from them. That
you
they
know,
just
it's so interesting because I thought to myself when Jen was recounting her story and other clients were recounting theirs, I just had that question: why would some society that's super advanced want anything to do with a society that doesn't have any technology, basically?
right. Oh, right. Yeah.
Why would they want something from them? So apparently on Atlantis, there was this really bad virus. And what was interesting was I would have people go back to Atlantis, even from 2016, and they would see, smog. And I thought the smog was from their technology, but it wasn't. It was because of this virus. They were burning the bodies. That was how they were getting rid of the bodies. So there was a bad virus going on, but there were multiple viruses because they were doing so many different experiments, and they were gene testing and all kinds of things in laboratories. So this wasn't uncommon, but this was a very deadly one, and they couldn't seem to find a cure. And they had been watching the Lemurians for quite a while. I guess they just knew, since they had such advanced technology. They had extraterrestrial type crafts that they used that were, based with propulsion energy, and they also had very interesting stealth technology where they could watch people and not be seen. So they were watching the Lemurians, and they saw that they had this special immunity. So the Lemurians had immunity. They would still experience pain with childbirth and pain, but no one got sick. There were no viruses there. And the reason was they were very protected. They were given a gift from their star ancestors. And they had these special red crystals that they used that kind of gave them the way they were strategically placed and everything, and had this ability to provide immunity for them. So, and they used these crystals for many different things, but one of the purposes was this immunity. So the Atlanteans were able to figure this out, and they demanded, to have this immunity. So at first they pretended to be the Lemurians' friends. They made themselves known. They, acted as friends. They said, we would like to, help one another, but can you help us? We have this really bad virus. And the Lemurians could not give them this immunity. It was a gift from the star people, and they would not give them the red crystals, because when they went into meditation to speak with their star ancestors, the answer was definitely don't give these people these crystals. So the Lemurians hid them away as soon as they heard that. And the Atlanteans got angrier and angrier as the people continued to pass over there in Atlantis. And finally, that's when they demanded, look, give us the crystals or we'll destroy your civilization. And the Lemurians thought their numbers were greater because they had this huge army. They had a huge army in Lemuria, and they just couldn't believe that the Atlanteans would be able to defeat them if they were ever to go to war. But that is what they did. They took, they took Jen as a prisoner, according to Jen's past life, and destroyed the civilization. And I can't tell you how many clients I've had recounting that great wave. I mean, some people still have these phobias and fears of these big waves, and they don't really realize that it might actually come from that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Lumeria was destroyed, obviously, before Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm getting is that, so the Atlanteans had this technology to wipe out Lemuria, but with Atlantis being destroyed, it was because that their lust for power had become out of control. And so the progenitors, the beings, the cosmic council, or whoever was like overseeing this world decided, okay, you guys are not getting with the program, and they kind of wiped out. Right.
That's exactly what happened, because there was no balance. whatsoever in their society. So basically what ended up happening, where there were many different experiments, I mean, throughout Atlantis, but one of the big things that started happening that sort of set their society over the edge was they had this, it was a slit in the arm where this genetic material was placed in, and then like a putty-like substance over top. And it was a mandatory, and everybody received.
This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman Cosme from May 2022. Enjoy.
But it was made with animal DNA. And so it seemed like a huge success at first. And people started, being able to go on with their lives. And everybody was so excited that it seemed as if, we could live again. And it wasn't until the first set of babies started being born with this horrific side effect that they realized, whoa, there's a problem with this.
Wow.
I mean, before that, they had many different experiments that people would be a part of, and many different, what you would call vaccines. Of course, it's different because the way that it was made and everything like that. But these children were born with these side effects where they were almost like looked very animalistic. So they would have different animal parts. There were a lot of like cat-like features to some of the children, and there were different like tails, gills sometimes. You can still see this side effect running like very lightly in our genes even today. There's people still born with gills or tail, extra nipples and everything like that. So what was happening was these children were being told, the parents were told, that they would be taken to this special island and they would be given resources and things like that. But that was a lie. They were actually being killed, because they didn't want anyone to tell the tale. And they at the time, there was a very large judgmental group during that time. But what they started to realize later on was that these children that were affected by side effects had very special abilities. And if you look at side effects today, if you look at autism or even the savants, you can see that there are special abilities that have come out of side effects. So the same thing, we're just repeating history so many times. But anyway, so they had very special abilities where these children with side effects could actually tap into ley lines. They could tap into information all around them. They could create this special energy within their mind. They could focus on something, levitate it. They had so many different special abilities. And there's many people that are still have those abilities, actually. So anyway, so after they stopped killing these children, they started testing them because they had these special abilities, and they started harnessing this energy. That was just towards the final days. But there were groups of some of these children that did escape that went to Egypt and started creating different things based on their abilities. And some of those you can still see today in Egypt.
Oh, wow. This story just gets better and better. Talk about history repeating itself. Okay, so when Atlantis was, wow, the most massive flock of white cockatoos just went past my window. And I live in the city on a street, on a suburban street. Anyway, that was just wild. Hello.
Wow.
Okay, where was I? So when Atlantis was destroyed, obviously not everyone died. And there is still genetic makeup in people that did survive from that era in humans today. Like, because, is that right? Yeah.
Right. Oh, definitely.
Right.
Not everyone passed in Atlantis. And many people, because where Atlantis was, it was very close to North America, and it was very close to Egypt as well, because the continent looks so different. When people would pass from their lifetime, I'd always get them to look down and look at the world, and everything looks so different. There were water and coastlines look so different. The Western Africa was a lone sandbar that traveled to the Sphinx. So it was really interesting because everything looks so different than it does today.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms. This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman, Cosme, from May 2022. Enjoy.
But there were many survivors, not many, but there were survivors that then breeded with other people, and not that much of their technology was salvaged for a reason, because they were too out of balance. So it was a reset of their civilization. And that happens periodically throughout history when things are too imbalanced.
Yeah. And we're at that precipice right now on planet Earth. Yeah, we're back. We're back.
We're back.
But
back. See, the thing is that I've heard in sessions is that it's actually very exciting where we are right now, because humanity doesn't evolve like a straight line. It doesn't just keep going up, it goes in cycles. So we're back right now, but that means we're making a huge jump forward. Mm-hmm. So this is really exciting. And I've heard we don't need to reset our civilization, that there's been so much work and there's been so many star seeds placed on the planet so that we will make it this time. We will do this jump like we're supposed to do. And this world, this earth, will rebalance itself. It doesn't look like it when you look on the news, and there's a lot of chaos going on right now, but the end result will be beautiful. They say it's like labor pains, like a woman giving birth, that it's horrible for a while, but something beautiful comes out of it. And that's what they keep saying. They keep saying, just hold on, this is going to be amazing, just hold on.
Well, lately on the show, we've been exploring. I had this amazing woman on the show, Dolly Saffron, who is an extraterrestrial contactee, and she has full conscious recall of all her experiences with her Star Nation family. She doesn't need to go into hypnosis. She's got full recall, and she flies the ships, and she says that her job is like when the solar flash wipes out, takes humanity back to the Stone Age. Her job is to come with all the ships and pick up humanity to take them off planet to a new world. So that's her timeline, which I've heard before. I've heard that story before. What do you think? What's coming through your clients about that? Because there's a few different timelines. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting because, like I said, I don't watch other people's YouTube or anything like that because I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I was curious because people have asked me about the solar flash. Mm-hmm. So what I received through clients was a lot of people remember a solar flash that we've experienced before on a different planet, because we're always extraterrestrials, and I call them we because essentially we are the extraterrestrials. We're always trying to do things a little bit better each time. And there was a solar flash on one of the Earth-like planets, and everybody evolves too quickly. And so the higher consciousness have said they would like it to be a slow progression, just not as quick as it was on that planet, because it just went from, where people were striving for perfection and individuality. And it went from that to being so evolved, you no longer needed to eat in a flash. And that was just too quick. So they've said they would like Earth to slowly progress, this time. So I haven't received anything of a quick solar flash. I haven't through clients. Maybe it would happen, but I haven't received that. I have received that there is somewhat of a solar flash, but it's very slow. There's a lot of different solar energy hitting the planet, and it's bringing information and bringing light, but very gradually. I've just been hearing that this is a very gradual process. They want to take things slowly with us for this experiment.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard, I've been doing this for a while, so I've heard many different stories, and And I've chatted to the guides about it, and they just keep saying, what are you choosing? What timeline are you aligning to? Like we talked about how the soul is so multidimensional. There are multiple parallel realities as well that you can align to and experience depending on what you choose.
Definitely, because it's so interesting, because we're each creator beings. We're that powerful. So if you take away our filter, everything is like we're creating it with the filter of our eyes. Everything is like a dark, muddy gray. Actually, that's what reality looks like, they've said. And because we create what we want it to look like, our purple will look different than somebody else's purple. So our reality is literally our own recreated reality. It's like a hologram universe.
Right.
And I love saying this because I love it that the extraterrestrials keep honing this point to everybody. But they say the truth of the universe is that this life is just a game, and that this game has been going on for longer than human beings can comprehend in the aspect of time. Because we keep traveling to different planets and we see them and we experience their life cycles, and then we go to other planets. There isn't any death at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And we just continuously do this. So if you think about it like that, nothing could ever harm you, ever. You're always alive. You're always continuously doing this. But this is just a game and an experience, you know?
Yeah.
And you're basically creating your own. But we have shared creations. And that's what happens to a lot of people, is we fall into the trap that what other people say is true, when it doesn't have to be true at all. You can live in the fairy realm if you wanted to, and you literally could.
Yeah. Well, it's true for the person who's saying it, and it is their truth and a truth and their truth. Like what we do as humans is we say, oh, that's not true, meaning that's not true for everybody, but it's true for them. Like Dolly's, that is her timeline, that is her truth. After I had that conversation with Dolly, I'm a big sort of like streamer at night, I try to turn off from the conversations I have during the day. I end up having more of them as I watch streaming stuff at night. I watched all this stuff about time travel and future time and people going back in time, and when they changed something, they came back into their time and things were different. And I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what the guides are talking about with timelines and different parallel timelines and realities and universes. And that's her truth. It's what is true for one person doesn't necessarily is your truth, because what are you choosing as your truth? What are you choosing as your truth? Yeah.
And I think we were supposed to learn that through the whole COVID experience, that you could literally be around somebody that has a totally different truth, but it would literally be true for them.
Right. Oh God, I just had that conversation yesterday with somebody who just came over. Their truth is very different to my truth. Yeah, very different. And what you create your reality, right? What you believe, you create. What you believe. So if you believe you're in danger, you're in danger. If you believe you're not in danger, you're not in danger. Right, exactly. Wow.
Well, I thought I had this one example, and I hope I don't, it's not bad to use this example, but I had this mother that came in because she was really upset about her daughter getting all right, I'm just using this as an example because it was really interesting. And she was upset about that because her truth was that this was harmful. So I asked her subconscious, her higher self, what should this mother do about that? Or is her daughter going to be okay? And her higher self said, of course, her daughter has a different reality. In her reality, that was very beneficial to her. So she should love that decision. And it will be a great decision. But in the mother's reality, it's a totally different reality. And she is 100% correct in her reality as well. And I said, how is that possible? How can there be two different truths? And they said, this is an experience for everyone to see that you are literally creating your own reality.
That's just perfect, because that's exactly what we're being shown in a very visceral, real way. So I was at a dinner party, for a better word, at somebody's place for dinner the other night, having this conversation, because they have a different reality to me. And then I kind of came out and I told them my reality, and they said, well, why do you think this? And I told them why I think this. And they're like, It's not their reality, but they're willing to listen. But what they were saying is that, this conversation has divided the world. And I said, actually, it's united the world. Well, how do you see it uniting the world? Because we're all in this together. We might be arguing about who's right or wrong, but it's all one topic. It's actually uniting the world. So we can see it any way we want to see it. Some people say it's dividing the world. Some people say it's uniting the world. But it is showing the world something. Yeah. Wow.
Wow, I love what you just said. That's perfect. Yes. I love that.
It's all how you perceive it. It's all what you want to create. What are you choosing? Yeah. You can see it as division. You can see it as uniting. Yeah. What do you choose? What do you choose? All right. I want to get in. Oh my God, Sarah, I could talk to you. It's 10:10. I could talk to you all day, but I want to get into the Sphinx because, wow, you are fascinating. This is fascinating. Loving this conversation. So that was book one. If you want to know more about it, read the book. There's obviously a lot more information. Let's just journey to the secrets of the Sphinx. Let's talk about how this book came about.
So again, I was using Jen as my main subject because obviously she's such a star subject. Any hypnotist would dream of working with her. And so I regressed her back to this lifetime she had in the 1970s, where she was uncovering this information before with another hypnotist, which is really fascinating, and pulling all this information. She eventually was called crazy and lobotomized. But what was really interesting was her hypnosis sessions with this other hypnotist, where during these sessions, she saw things like the Sphinx being built. And she saw that these extraterrestrials that were building the Sphinx didn't have bodies when they came to Earth to build the Sphinx, because you only need bodies as an extraterrestrial if you're interacting with humans. And they weren't. And in that way, they didn't have to get stuck on the planet and they could come and go as they wanted. So they built the Sphinx out of this very special rock. And this rock was used to harness and magnetize and hold energy. And it would hold information like a time capsule. And it would also broadcast it out to different planets. So that is why they used this special rock to build the Sphinx on. Most of the time was spent digging the underground tunnels underneath the Sphinx. The Sphinx facade took the least amount of time, and it was like a jungle cat looking face, because that was the apex predator in the area. And it was meant to create this almost like enigma for people when they stared at it, like a cat watching them, so to speak. And so the Sphinx records and broadcasts every single thing that has happened, our actual true history, and it keeps tabs on us so that the other planets that are watching us and guarding us can keep track of our progress, because everything humanity does affects the whole universe, because essentially we're all one. We're just the ones that don't really realize this. But every little thing you do affects counterparts of you. So if you think about the gray aliens, for most people, those are the future versions of themselves. Although that seems to switch according to what timeline you're focused on. If you're focused on more natural, holistic, spiritual timeline, it seems to be Arcturian. That would be the future version of yourself. But if you, this is what I hear in sessions. So you can have counterparts of yourself also living a full life on a different planet and be extremely evolved at this time. So they keep tabs on themselves, which is you. And one of the ways to keep tabs on all of humanity is through things like the Sphinx.
So it's like a information energy vortex transmitter, something. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
But you can connect with your home planet, or where you feel most resident, where you resonate mostly with, by connecting with the Sphinx, because you could also, it's like a really quick way to communicate with your home planet.
Ooh, they're just giving me a stack of information. I'm listening to Sarah. I can't listen to you now. I'll listen to you. They're just giving me a whole stack of information about Egyptian gods depicted as animal figure like Cosme and Hol, and they're just saying they understood this, they taught this in the mystery schools and blah, blah, blah. They're just giving me all this information. But surely there would be more than one transmitter of this.
Definitely.
So the Sphinx is not the only thing, right? Not the only, right? Yeah.
It's just one of the most iconic, but they're all over. Some have been eroded, and there's many Sphinx-like structures on other planets. But many of my clients that have been to a lot of people consider the home planet, because there's many home planets, has like the structure that also broadcasts back to the Sphinx. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's has these spires, like these squiggly lines coming up from it, is what my clients talk about when they see this other planet. But they're all over. And humans are also antennas. So, I mean, it's all connected. It's all the same. It's all symbolism everywhere you look. But we're also the antenna as well. But here's another antenna that was more.
Okay. Oh, just getting so much more information flooding in. Antenna. So I was just sharing with you before we went live that, my hair had fallen out, and another friend of mine, a galactic goddess, asked her guides about it and said that your hair is your antenna, and as you lose hair and grow back new hair, it has a different quality of receiving, and so you can receive higher different frequencies, right? And
oh my God,
are you getting chills? And as I think about the Sphinx and the lion beings, and you think about lions and you think about their mane, and I know that I've been told by the guides that the Sphinx used to have a lion head, and then some pharaoh thought that it would be nice to put his head on the Sphinx and turned it into what we see today. But there is all this hair on a lion, right? And you're talking about antenna, and I'm like thinking, wow, the puzzle pieces are just falling into place right now.
Wow, that is so incredible. So I wonder, because a lot of people are experiencing that after COVID.
Right.
And I've heard that COVID really helped a lot of people with what's that word? New upgrades.
DNA upgrade. Yeah.
So that sort of makes sense that is happening. And with the face of the Sphinx changing, according to clients, it was symbolic, because there's so much symbolism in the world. It was symbolic of the takeover of the divine, not the divine, but the masculine power, control, and greed, and the imbalance and the crushing of the divine feminine was symbolic of this changing of the face, where it was like no longer about, the actual face. Now it was the face of who, has the most power.
The pharaoh. Yeah. The hierarchical face of some dude who reckons they're in power and controlling everybody. Right. Yeah, exactly. Humans. God.
Mm-hmm.
This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman, Cosme, from May 2022. Enjoy. You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms.
Okay, so there's more to this story, the secrets. So what are the secrets? Because I heard you with Regina, because you've been on Gaia with Regina Meredith, and you did an amazing job with, sharing the story there. But I'm finding out so much more from this conversation today. I'm loving it. And anyway, they built tunnels underneath the Sphinx. Do you want to talk about what's going on underneath?
Oh, sure. Yeah, they built tunnels underneath, but there were so many different reasons for the tunnels underneath. There were many different extraterrestrial groups that would use the tunnels underneath. There's so many different reasons for it, but another reason was because of the Ice Age. The extraterrestrials seeding the planet didn't want to lose the population that they had cultivated. And, it took such a long time to get these people to where they were. So instead of losing them all as the planet was going through a cool down process, they helped these people create these underground tunnels. and they lived in these underground tunnels and cave systems until the ice receded. That was another reason. And then also the tunnels are meeting places for different groups of extraterrestrials to share ideas and to check on the soil and to check on humanity and things like that. And there's also bases on the underground tunnels. So there's many different purposes for the underground tunnels.
And are the underground tunnels and the bases nefarious, or?
It depends. There's definitely nefarious underground tunnels and bases where there's a lot of experimentation going on, and the human trafficking and transport of illegal arms and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about that happening in Atlantis. That's happening so much now. I mean, some of the, we hear about the atrocities during in the camps during the Second World War, and how scientists were experimenting on the Jews and stuff like that. And none of that stopped. It's just covert. It's just that we're not hearing about it, right? They're still doing hideous sort of experiments on, genetic. Yeah, they're still
doing many experiments.
Right. Yeah.
Terrible ones.
And that'll probably all come out as well as the light is revealing. The guides have said to me, if you're going to clean up planet Earth, you have to see where the dirt is. It's they used it like a dirty house. They say, you're living in a dirty house. If you dim the light, you can't see the dirt. But if you turn the light up, you can see where the dirt is, and then you can clean it up. And that's the analogy they gave me for planet Earth.
Well, that's what's happening even within our own selves. We're
exactly
shining this light not only on all but ourselves as well. I mean, because nobody is perfect. Everybody's got a shadow.
Right. Yeah. We've all got work to do. Yeah. We're all holding a lot of density. And I think that the light workers, the light weavers elected to come into family that are holding many generations of, density and collective thought form. And they've come into chaotic, dysfunctional, horrible families. Mine was one of them. And specifically to clean up the genetic DNA on their own being, so that, we can move into a more enlightened society. Yeah. Less trauma.
Right. It's so hard for these light workers, for these stars, because of things like that, because they come in and they wonder, why did I get placed in that family that's so different than I am? But a lot of times they find out it's because they volunteered to help clean up the trauma of that family and all the genetic line, that they're here to do that in this lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of it, I'm just thinking about, Sheila Seppi's putting on a hybrid conference, and she had my photo on the hybrid conference, and she said, "Oh, sorry, I meant to put you in the light worker conference, not the hybrid conference." And I'm like, no, I'm definitely a hybrid, because the star seeds who come in have tweaked their own DNA to be more psychic, more empathic, more open. And then with that hybridization in their own physical DNA, they come into this family that is fraught with drama. And now they're have this heightened sensitivity, and they're freaking out. They're suffering. Yeah. But they don't have to suffer, as you say. Sensitivity is a superpower.
Yeah, it's hard when you aren't really aware that you're one of these, beings, or that you're here for that purpose. It's difficult when you think, what am I doing here? Why right now with all this chaos? And it can be really difficult, because a lot of light workers, they don't want to be around people because they're so sensitive to energy, and it's hard for them to maneuver Earth since they're not really used to this Earth. So yeah.
This is a replay from my conversation with Sarah Breskman, Cosme, from May 2022. Enjoy.
So is there any other secrets we need to know about the Sphinx before we go? I'm just loving this conversation. This is just so cool.
Well, I mean, there's just so many secrets about history and about human, and really, it's really up to each person to really look inside, and they each believe, and it's time to really go into yourself and find out who you are. Right. You're one of these light workers, or see if you're here to help your family line. Just get curious about yourself and continuously ask questions. and try your best, to continue to raise your vibration and connect with like-minded people.
Yeah, I think that's important, to connect with like-minded people, not all the time, but yeah, to just come together and just be in each other's energy field. A friend of mine, I've got a friend staying with me at the moment. He's in between houses, and he was staying at another friend of his house last week who is well and truly in the matrix, very wealthy, but just well and truly in the like, just thinks that anything we've been talking, would listen to this conversation and think that we were completely insane. Anyone that believes in anything psychic or extraterrestrial is insane, according to their paradigm, right? We create our own reality. Anyway, so we had a little bit of a gathering in their house. David was saying that, we brought all that energy into their environment and sort of shifted the environment in their house, because they talk about politics and they talk about isn't it terrible? This politician says that, this is their conversation. And we're in their house talking about extraterrestrials and ascension. It would have shifted the energetic matrix of their house. But it's so important, to come together to nurture each other's energy field that are on that same wavelength, and then go back out into the world, into your families and into your work environment, feeling enriched and stronger for it. Don't you think?
Oh, definitely. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, darling one, it's been so wonderful to speak with you. It's been really beautiful. I'd love to do this again and invite you to meet our little online tribe, and I'll introduce you to Sheila too. You might like to talk to her tribe from the Wish Alliance. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and I'm sure there's a lot more in the books. If people want to get the books, I'll have the links on my Amazon links on my website page if you want to buy the books through them, or you can go straight to Sarah's website. What's your website? What is your website?
theholistichehypnotist.com.
Holistichehypnotist.com. Beautiful. Thanks again, hon.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. I was just chatting with Sarah then. Her internet was very unstable. It was time to finish. The guides were saying, let the girl go. Let her get back to her family. Don't keep her there forever, quizzing her and asking her questions. So they just made the internet go unstable. I said, yep, time to finish. Because I just found that fascinating. I hope you did too. I was just saying to her, just all that information just lit me up inside. Obviously, I've got something to do with the whole story. I was there and everything. I don't remember, obviously. But yeah, I found it fascinating. What did you think? Did you find that fascinating? Do you think you're a part of the Lemurian Atlantic story as well? Do you think you're back to create a different new timeline, or to create a different experience here on planet Earth, one where we don't need to be destroyed? We don't need a supernova to destroy the planet or our technology. She says that we're evolving slowly. We're going to evolve slowly rather than fast. I don't know. There's so many stories out there, isn't there? There's people talking about the event, where some big solar energy, light packet of energy is going to hit the planet and everyone's going to wake up spontaneously. Maybe on some Earth. Is it going to be the one we're living? Or is it going to be a slow evolution where we get with the program and start to love each other and work with each other in collaboration instead of competition? I was just telling Sarah, I loved what I did yesterday. I was with Sheila Seppi and the Wish Alliance for the Conscious Awakening conversations that we're doing, and we simulcast live on 3 YouTube channels yesterday. I loved that, on Portal to Ascension, Neil Gore's YouTube, Portal to Ascension, Alan Steinfeld's New Realities, and mine, all simulcast, and then Facebook in the Wish Alliance group and my group, Awakening Empowerment Network, and then on my Facebook page. And the information was just blasting out to all these different portals. I just thought that was so cool. So I asked Sarah to come back and chat to us and to do that and talk more about, she's writing book number 3. She's in the middle of writing book number 3. delving deeper down the rabbit hole into all this information coming from clients. And so that'll be fascinating to talk. So we can talk more about it. But yeah, would you like to meet Sarah and quiz her and what the information that she's bringing through? I'm sure you would. So I'm going to organise that with her. I don't know when. We haven't set a date, probably towards the end of the year. It might even be next year now. Okay, towards the end of the year. And we'll blast that out on all the, do a live. And you can ask questions, or you can join us on Zoom and we'll do a live. But you'll have access to talking to her. I'll do it with Sheila so we can both co-host, so we can speak to a wide audience. That'd be fun. Won't that be fun? I'm excited. I think that'd be so much fun. I just love talking to Sarah. She was just great. Loved it. I saw her talking to Regina Meredith, and her and I had a bit of a chat about that. Regina seems to be so researched, and so she seems to know the answers to the questions that she's asking her. So she asks the question and then she answers the question before. And I'm thinking sometimes it's just best to turn up unresearched so that the questions that you ask are genuine, like you don't know the answers to them, so that you actually listen to the answers. But yeah, Regina was loving Sarah as well. She had her on the show several times. She was just loving the information that was coming through. And yeah, same. I just loved it. Loved talking. And Sarah's so easy to talk to and just wonderful. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, check out her books. The books sound fascinating. As I say, I'll have the links to the affiliate links on the web page, which will be a link under this conversation if you want to use our links, and you can donate to the shows that way. A couple of cents goes to me. Rarely happens, but you know, I don't do this to raise money. I do it to raise consciousness. That's the whole point of these conversations.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio, hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms. Thanks for listening to the replay today with Sarah Breskman, Cosme. She is amazing. That was back in 2022, May 2022. Obviously, some of the things I was saying were not relevant to us here in October, almost November 2025. I'm yet to get Sarah back on the show, but I will endeavour to get Sarah back on the show to fill us in on more of her amazing stories with her clients. And remember, we have a second show on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network called Elevate Consciousness, the awareness shift, waking the quantum self, where I pop on each week for an hour and talk about who we are as genius, deliberate creators, what's possible for us outside our limiting thoughts, and I invite friends to come on and chat with me too. Kristen Mismash often comes on a couple of times a month. And Caroline Idarola was on a few times. She says she can't do them now, but maybe she'll come back. But I invite other people that I've spoken with over the years to come on and have a fab conversation. It's a great show and I love doing it. And that is on Wednesdays at 6 p.m., 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on a Wednesday afternoon, evening. And it is, so I do it live on a Thursday here down under. The times are changing down under. Sometimes it's 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes it's 9 o'clock, and as your clocks change, it'll be 10 o'clock. So for my summer, your winter, it's a couple of hours later, and then in my winter, I have to get up early to do the shows, both ATP Media, Accentuate the Positive, and Elevate, but I don't mind. I do love it. Make sure you check out the replays of Elevate and all the ATP Media shows. They're all on my YouTube channel, Rumble channel, and Odyssey. Also on the UFO Paranormal Radio Networks on their YouTube channels, probably not on their Rumble. They used to be on Facebook. Facebook is deleting the lives after 30 days. So go to their YouTube. There's Twitch as well and many other platforms. to catch the replays of the lives. They're all worth listening to. I have been contemplating retiring next year, but I say that every year. Anyway, what do you think? Should I retire or should I keep going? I'd love your support if I do keep going, because although we're reaching huge amounts of people listening through the networks, the streaming platforms, the major ones, even Rumble and Odyssey, are just not doing any traction. So it's up to you to share the love, spread the word, spread it through your social media platforms, tell your friends about these shows if you want to keep us going. The way that you can help keep us going is to subscribe. I know a lot of you listen to the shows, especially on YouTube. You don't necessarily have to be signed in or a subscriber. When you sign in, you can subscribe, press the like button, and leave a comment. Leaving a comment really helps the algorithms. When you just say thank you, or maybe you have a question, or maybe you want to criticize us or put in your opinion or judge us, I don't care. Leave your comment, because it really helps the algorithm and all the platforms. When people engage in the content, they think to themselves, well, looks like the people are enjoying this. I'm going to show it to more people. So your comments really help. And I know Asan, who always, every show, leaves some sort of comment. I want to thank you, but I'd love to hear your feedback. So leave a comment. And if you want to join us in our little groups on Facebook, we have a messenger group called the Inner Sanctum. We have the Awakening Empowerment Network group on Facebook as well. And during 2020, I joined a whole lot of social media networks. I joined MeWe and, oh gosh, I can't even think of them all now. But there are alternatives to FB if you want to reach out and connect. But I'd love to see you and hear from you on any of the social media networks, or even leave a comment on the YouTube channel, Rumble channel, Odyssey. There's Twitch. There's lots of places that you can contact us. We'll go to my website, Karen Swain, KarenSwain.com, and send me your comments through the contact page there. Or maybe you have some questions for us to discuss on Elevate. Always happy to hear from you. I'm excited and look forward to hearing from you.
And remember to check out the book Awakened by Death if you haven't already. Big love to you all. Bye for now.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you